California! We are at 9 pips for
What
California.
is Brayrand doing in Missouri?
I don't understand putting that much money into Louisiana.
North Carolina going into the Republic
This is one of the
Conference.
most stunning results in 270 Live history.
Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, whenever you're watching, and thanks for tuning in to 270 Live. Tonight, we're coming to you from the jewel of the desert, the entertainment capital of the world. It's none other than Las Vegas, Nevada. And under the bright lights of Sin City, we find ourselves here tonight, a win or go home matchup, as two of the tournament's very best collide in a blockbuster semifinal showdown. Only one ticket to the championship game remains as number 3 seed Steven faces off against number 4 seed Riley to determine who moves on to Dallas and whose journey will finally come to an end tonight. A sold-out crowd here in Allegiant Stadium, along with the millions tuning in online and on their TV screens, are waiting to see which one of these battle-tested veterans will make it out victorious in what surely will be an absolute brawl to the final whistle. As always, I'm Keegan Fong in the booth alongside the man who has already locked up a spot in the finale. It's Ryan Martinez. And Ryan, what do we have in store for this exciting matchup here tonight?
It's unbelievable, Keegan. This is the longest 270 Live tournament, the most competitive, the most talented of all time. We're finally here to the final 3 contestants, and I have to say, I mean, what a moment for the committee here that they've been able to pick 3 of the top 4 seeds are now in our final 3. This is going to be an even matchup. You have 3 versus 4 seed here, and both, have shown a lot of promise during the tournament. They've had some ups and downs along the way. I think both of them are going to be in for a very, very close matchup at the end here.
For sure, Ryan, and I think it's valuable to take some time and take a look at the path that both of these contestants have taken just to get to this spot in Las Vegas tonight. Riley opened up with a bit of a scare against Jack Allen in that Philadelphia matchup. We of course know based off of how well he's done in this tournament, Jack Allen's no pushover. He's a very strong, competent player, but Riley was definitely a bit spooked after how close that first round matchup was. Didn't matter though, Riley went into New Orleans, beat me in an absolute nail-biter, went down to the very end, an exciting matchup, and Riley was riding high, taking that momentum into Madison Square Garden, though he did come just a little short against you. But Riley's got some rest, he's got some time to recuperate, and he's now here ready to face off against Steven, who has gone through a completely different path. Steven got knocked off in that first round upset, just an absolute shocker. I mean, how do you lose to Brayrand of all people by that much? And so that sent Steven tumbling down into the loser's bracket. But credit where credit's due, Steven has worked his way back, beating Tyler in Salt Lake City, beating me in Miami, in just what I might say is the best 270 Live matchup of all time. I don't think that's too controversial of a statement to say, but nonetheless, Steven rolled on, went to Indianapolis, dispatched J.A. handily, and now they're both here in Vegas for the Losers Bracket Finals, the second semifinal matchup, clashing for that final spot. I mean, it's going to be absolutely electric. We do see Riley's already joined the match as Bernie Sanders, and we've gotten reports that Steven's going to be entering as Ron DeSantis, Meatball Ron. So, Ryan, with all that, what do you make of these character selections? What do you make of the matchup? What do you think we can expect for when it comes to strategies with these two very, very strong players?
Well, you're kind of thinking about their strategies here in the candidates they're picking. They kind of are coming off 2 different types of momentum, right? Steven had the humiliation in the first game, and he's been kind of picking up steam through this tournament. But on the other side with Riley, he was riding high. He also beat Keegan. He beat J.A. He was having a very good tournament, and now he's playing his first game after his first defeat. You kind of have to see, is that going to make maybe Steven more aggressive? Is that going to make Riley kind of, play a little more defensive? Has he lost confidence after that loss? It's going to be interesting to see this first turn. And, I would say, though, probably in an elimination game this deep in the tournament, they're probably going to play pretty conservatively. I'm going to guess we're going to see a pretty conventional Republican Dem start here.
And we got a huge roar in the crowd earlier when Riley walked out on the match. We're still waiting, Steven, but I do want to send it down to our sideline reporter, Brayrand, who's got a little bit of information about a pregame fan survey. Brayrand, take it away.
Hey, we've been walking around down here amongst the crowd, and this is just a hell of a matchup. We've got just absolutely humongous turnout. The Riley crowd that you noted roaring out. We were speaking to fans on the sideline, and they are awaiting eager anticipation to see Riley begin to put the hurt on. To them, they've been saying over and over again that Riley has just been warming up, that he's just been, just getting hot. He was almost upset in that first game by JA, but since then he's been lightning, and that's really the mentality that they seem to believe is going to happen here. And then, conversely, we've had a lot of really strong Ziegler fans, who go, he's been doubted, he's been hated. I remember in our last matchup, we actually had a super hater who we've shown up to the game who wasn't even a fan of Ziegler. He just came to try and watch him lose. And, Ziegler's been proving people wrong. So it's been a rowdy crowd. We have seen some interesting interactions. But, this is going to be just an absolute hell of a matchup. Back to you guys in the booth.
It's interesting, Keegan. I mean, this is a rather long wait here. I mean, what's going on in the Ziegler camp right now? Is he nervous? Is there technical difficulties going on? You kind of have to wonder, is this going to affect him at the start of the game? Is it kind of a more jumpy, prolonged, start than we're kind of accustomed to? Or is this him making Riley wait? Riley's, been sitting and waiting with his candidate. Maybe Steven's kind of, there's kind of mind games going on.
I mean, certainly at this point in the tournament, you gotta think there are some mind games going on, some psychological play, because every edge you can get matters at this point. We are in, for these two players, pure single elimination at this point. They have both taken their loss. So, loser goes home. Winner will go on to play you in the next matchup. So this is just a crucial matchup for both of these players as we do finally see Meatball Ron join the game. Ryan, what are you expecting out of both these cans? Is it going to be a standard play, or are we going to see something different from either of them?
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned a bit before, I think this will be a standard play. I'm going to guess Bernie's going town and gown. I'm going to guess DeSantis is going to be Old South. I mean, Keegan, could we maybe look a little bit at the state groups here, starting with Ron? When we look at DeSantis, if he's going to go Old South, he gets plus 15%. Has a huge swing state bonus, which, obviously if you get Old South, Virginia, North Carolina, Florida, Georgia would really help with that. That's probably the direction he's going to be going in. And then looking at Bernie here, he does get a 25% town and gown, and then added on to that, the second group is going to be high tech. So I really think both of them not having big bonuses with African Americans is going to lead to a very conventional start here. High tech and town and gown versus Old South and swing state.
And that is what we are seeing here is going to be a standard Old South for Ron DeSantis. Those two pips in those four states. And a somewhat reserved buy from Bernie Sanders, $200,000, and that's going to be New York, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. Now, that's been kind of something new we've seen on 270 sphere, at least on the Democratic side, is not using all of your money turn one. It gives you a little bit more to play with in this turn two. And you can see Bernie's sitting at $300,000. What do you make of that, Ryan?
I'm usually fine with the kind of Massachusetts, New York, Utah start because it does help a little bit more on high tech. But, with a little more money to play with, depending on how the math goes, maybe you could put a pip in Virginia or Maryland or something, kind of mess with what DeSantis is going to be doing here. But, again, this is a conventional start. We're probably going to have I'm guessing the Democrat is going to be able to get counting down after turn 3, the Republicans Old South after turn 2 here. So maybe you see a pip from the Dem in Virginia here or something. But other than that, I'm expecting not a lot of combat going on at the end of this turn.
So turn 2 is going to finish up. We see DeSantis in Arizona and Florida. So pretty similar to what we saw from him in the last game. Just shoring up that Old South. Meanwhile, for the Dem, Bernie's going to go 3 pip to New York. So he's going to finish off New York very early, all things considered. Turn 2, DeSantis is going to pick up that Old South, $57,000. And so that means our electoral count is going to go to 4388. Bernie still got town and gown to pick up, but what is he going to do after that, Ryan? I mean, the board's wide open for him, and he's going to have a solid amount of money to spend this turn.
Yeah, so he'll 2-pip in New Hampshire, Massachusetts. Again, if I'm the Dem at this point, I'm probably aiming for high tech, not African American to start here. you got to get that second group. He maybe
quick
pips
turn-
in Virginia and Maryland.
Yeah, and a quick turnaround on those turns. DeSantis to 3 in Florida and Arizona, entering Georgia. Meanwhile, Bernie 3 in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. So a
Saving money.
very quiet spin from Bernie Sanders. He's going to pick up town and gown. That's 94,000. DeSantis is going to go up to 104, but he's not going to have swing states just yet. He's right on that margin. What do you make of that?
It is an audacious strategy here from Riley. Is he going to now 2-pip into California? Is that what's about to happen? It's something I haven't seen this early, because I believe, I would have to do the math, but is he going to have 400,000 here for the next, that's not town and gown? I believe he will. See, I know it's plus 75,000 for town and gown, but obviously the bonuses that we know, we'd have to do the math.
I think he's at a perfect 400,000 on non-town and gown money. So we could see double pip in California. We could see split between Cali and Texas. We are going to see 2 pip into California for Dem and some DC buys. Meanwhile, Ron DeSantis going up in Georgia and Illinois. He is working very hard for the African-American vote. Bernie in Iowa, DeSantis in Michigan. Bernie's going to go to Minnesota, so that's an interesting buy. Is 2 pip by DeSantis in Pennsylvania, entrance into Tennessee, and a Bernie entrance into Utah. That was a big turn here. Bernie's going to go up to 122 on the electoral vote count. Meanwhile, DeSantis at 168, and he's going to pick up $135,000 of swing state money here.
I really think if you're Riley, you've got to go into swing states now. One of the critiques I would have in regards to using his town and gown money, instead of going into Minnesota right now, which you can get way later in the game, maybe you put a pip into Arizona. Got to put some pressure. You need to put pressure on the Republican early, or it's going to get out of control. I will say, though, if you're going to go into California this early to try to get high tech and try to maybe get oil and gas of other groups, you got to do it exactly how Riley has done it, which is saving up that money to be able to 2-pip. So I do think that was a really good move by him.
There's a 3 in California. Meanwhile, DeSantis at 3 in Illinois. Again, he's going to get close to African-American here. Iowa, 3 for Bernie. DeSantis is going to enter Massachusetts. That's an interesting one, as Bernie is also going to overlap in Michigan, so that's going to be our first overlapping state. Bernie in Rhode Island, North Dakota. DeSantis in South Carolina and Tennessee. And Bernie's going to 3-pip into Utah, so that could shake up our state groups here as we finish turn 5. Bernie at 129. He's going to pick up high tech. That's 125,000. But meanwhile, DeSantis at 177. He's picking up 90,000 off African American.
Yeah, I really think if you're Riley, I'd ignore that Massachusetts pip. I think it was too late by Steven there to pip there. If I'm Riley, I'm just going to focus now on shoring up town and gown. By instead of protecting Massachusetts, go in, put pip up Minnesota or something to 3.
Very rapid turns here from some
it's
real
this quick, right?
Some real veterans here. We are going to see Bernie in Arizona. That's the most notable one here. He's going to enter Maryland as well. DeSantis is going to max out Michigan, so that's an early max out of the 15 electoral votes up there. Meanwhile, Bernie, 3 in North Dakota for oil and gas. DeSantis a 2-buy in Ohio. That's an interesting one. Bernie's going to enter Pennsylvania. So Bernie on the attack here.
Wow.
Bernie into Texas. That could be huge. He's also going to enter Virginia and Washington. So massive moves from the Bernie camp. Meanwhile, DeSantis had spent that turn, most of his capital, locking up Michigan. Wow, what a turn, Ryan.
I do think it was a smart move for Bernie. I think he knew that Riley was going to maybe want African-American down the road and that he had that high-tech money that connects into Michigan. But, yeah, maybe Steven has soundly beat him in some of these swing states that usually are very competitive, and Riley hasn't really countered him very much. But Riley has done this before where he goes around and does a masterful job in Texas and California. And the Republican without Texas, there's a cap to that, right? And it's around the kind of electoral votes that he has right now.
Arizona's the big one here. Bernie's going to go up to 5, but DeSantis is going to block it out completely, locking out Arizona. Meanwhile, DeSantis in Arkansas. Bernie's going to 1-pip into Massachusetts up to 4. DeSantis up to 2 in Mississippi. Bernie up to 1 in Nevada, 2 in New Mexico. Ohio, again, 3, another pip by DeSantis. He's going to defend Pennsylvania, but stay there. Bernie's going up to 2 in Texas. Virginia's the big one. DeSantis is going to lock that one out. So Bernie's not going to take Virginia despite investing the money there. And DeSantis is going to enter Wisconsin. 199, 246 for DeSantis. State groups remain as they are.
I guess, did I miss earlier? Did he already have African American?
He did already have African American. He's been holding on to that one for a while.
Yeah, so I apologize for that. But this is really a battle between that kind of being able to win the African American group, which is usually very kind of competitive between a Republican Dem, which obviously Stephen has done in a landslide, versus this kind of California-Texas combo. Riley is banking everything he has on these massive states. It will pay dividends. He will get state groups down the road, but how big of a lead is Stephen going to be able to build up before Riley can get that? But really, he's not that far away, right? He's one pip away in Texas, and he's going to have oil and gas. He's going to be high on agriculture. I'm guessing he's going to be high on export. I really don't hate Riley's position here, even though Stephen has had the lead for most of the match.
Yeah, this is going to be a pretty pivotal turn here. We're right in the middle of the mid-game. DeSantis up to 3 in Arkansas. Meanwhile, Bernie up to 3 in Connecticut with that high tech. Bernie up to 3 in D.C. and 2 in Delaware. Meanwhile, DeSantis up to 4 in Georgia. That's an interesting one. DeSantis going to enter Iowa. DeSantis holding the lead in Maryland with some decent buys there. Mississippi for DeSantis. DeSantis going to enter Nevada. Bernie's going to 2-pip into Rhode Island. DeSantis is going to start chasing in Texas, maybe a little too late.
Too late.
Bernie's going up to 3 in Washington, and in Wisconsin, that's also going to be an overlapping state. So 209, 246. Bernie is going to pick up Latino, 75,000. Oil and gas, 56,000. Agriculture, 50. Export, 37.5. Meanwhile, DeSantis is going to shore up manufacturing with 75. I do want to throw it down to our sideline reporter, Brayrand. Brayrand, what can you tell us about what's going on down there?
Particularly of interest, while we were in the crowd, we heard like a gigantic roar. All the stands leapt to their feet, when Bernie went into Texas. And so that was a huge, monumentous thing. And then as we got closer to the sideline, in that turn prior, at the end of turn 8, we saw a major spend from the Riley camp in both Virginia and in Arizona. And we saw a lot of frustration, it looked like, on the faces of the assistant head coaches. But immediately after that, we saw them looking a little bit frustrated. Some of them shook their heads, but they immediately pulled out their playbooks and they started dialing up new plays. I saw more fly cards, being pulled around. I saw coaches looking at things and having conversations. So it looks like, even though there's been, minor things that haven't gone their way, they've pulled off a really good move here and are executing.
Thanks, Brayrand. As we do see this turn finishing up, interesting, Bernie in Illinois and Indiana. He's going to defend in Iowa. Meanwhile, DeSantis picking up some smaller states. DeSantis is going to go over the top in Massachusetts. That's an interesting one. 6 pips there. DeSantis is going to max out Maryland, so 10 electoral votes locked out for the Republican. Bernie going to 4 in Nevada. He's going to enter Ohio as well as Oklahoma. Oregon in the Bernie camp for now. Pennsylvania is still defended by DeSantis. A huge buy in Pennsylvania. And in Washington, Bernie going up to 5 there. Wisconsin, that's going to be a flip. 10 electoral votes to Bernie, holding lead 4-3, and some smaller buys in Wyoming. So, out of this turn 9, 229 for Bernie, 262. No one yet at that magic 270 number. Ryan, this is going to get really close at the end, isn't it?
It's going to get close, but this is rather early for me to say it. But in terms of money, I think the battle has been won by Riley here. And I think it's early usually for me to go this route, but this now for Stephen is just can I eke out an electoral college win? He has less money. Can he outfox Riley and just steal a state here or there? That's kind of a surprise because Stephen is really concentrated in states that he already has won. Old South, he's already won all the states, right? African American, he's already won most of them other than New York, which he has not put any pips in. He's won almost all of the swing states. So he really has nowhere to gain in his state groups, really, and Riley has a lot of room to gain, which we're about to see throughout the plan.
Bernie over the top, 9 buys in Illinois. He is going to take those 19 electoral votes. Meanwhile, DeSantis shoring up some losses. That's a weird one. Massachusetts, a max out Massachusetts.
And a lot of money up there.
And the Republican will hold Massachusetts for now. That's words you don't say often. Meanwhile, DeSantis 5 buy in Ohio. And DeSantis is going to go up to 8 in Wisconsin, taking those 10 electoral votes back. 258, 254. It is a 4 electoral vote count difference right now as we finish up turn 10 and enter turn 11. I do want to point out, Ryan, what do you make of this lingering DeSantis in Texas? Could that be something, or is that just a mirage?
He could if Riley is not a good player. Simple as that. The bigger states are easier to calculate. You just got to look at the other person's state groups and how much money that they could put in every turn. and you've got to make sure you block it. He has to make sure that it is mathematically impossible every time with his buys in Texas for Steven to win. Anything else is unacceptable, and he deserves to be eliminated if he lets him take the state.
Bernie entering Alaska. He's going to lock out Colorado, so those 10 electoral votes, Riley's home state, shored up. Bernie, 2-bye into Florida. He's going to max out Illinois as well, securing its 19. Competition in Indiana of all states. Iowa, Bernie's going to max that one out. Massachusetts, that was a big one last turn. Bernie's going to go over the top, max it out, take its 11. Where DeSantis buys this turn? He's going to buy 50.
He doesn't have any buys right now, Keegan, of note.
There's the big one, a max out in Washington of all states, and finishing off Wisconsin. So, again,
I have an answer for it, Keegan. I have an answer for it. I mean, this guy, I said it before, the state groups that he owns, he already has the states in those state groups. All of the competitive areas, all of the areas that haven't been taken by anybody yet are areas that are within the kind of Riley orbit here, right? New Jersey is a Latino state. He has Latino. There's ag states in the middle of the country that are going to be competed over. That's going to be owned by Riley. There's oil states that don't have many pips. That's also Riley. The money gap already exists, but it's even bigger in reality because a lot of that money, like Old South money, is going to be wasted because I highly doubt Riley is going to go into the Old South at this point.
I mean, this is coming down the wire. It does look like Riley has the advantage, but it's still anybody's game. DeSantis sitting at $850,000. So again, I just want to keep your eye on Texas. Nothing there just yet, but that's a state to keep your eye on. Meanwhile, we're getting just massive buys in the Rust Belt and the Midwest. I mean, look at the intensity of the colors from Iowa all the way over to Pennsylvania. This turn is rapidly ticking down. Let's see what happens here. Connecticut. Woo! Decent buys there for the Republicans, but Bernie is going to lock it out. In Florida, state Bernie entered last turn. DeSantis is going to fire off a ton of rounds. Defend. Bernie's not going to move there, though. Idaho, Bernie over the top there. Indiana, maxed out by DeSantis with that manufacturing money. In Kansas, where DeSantis up to 2. Bernie going over the top in Kentucky, 2-1. Bernie's going to be entering Louisiana. 3 pipping in the Missouri. Bernie edging over DeSantis in Montana. In New Jersey, the same thing, 2-1. DeSantis entering Oklahoma. Texas, Bernie's going to buy another one. So that's 4 for Bernie in Texas, assuredly holding on to that one. And Bernie's going to take the lead in West Virginia. That's a big electoral shift change after last turn, at least. 295, 243. And we are going to see final ballot. So, Ryan, what's the path look like here for DeSantis? Is there any hope of taking this win?
I really don't think so. I mean, I think the only way Riley would lose here is if he really makes a blunder like putting all in Louisiana, even though Steven has probably a lot of saved up Old South money. As long as Riley stays in his territory in the states that Steven doesn't have a state group in, like New Jersey, like Oklahoma, like Idaho, I would probably let him take Nevada because Nevada is going to probably be swing state money that he can dump in there. But other than that, I think if you focus on those states that you have the clear advantage money-wise, I don't see a path here for Steven. It is possible because these leads are narrow, but it would take a very, very unfortunate set of circumstances for Riley to lose it.
We'll see as the seconds tick down. This has only been a 13-turn game, so relatively short, but it's been lightning quick, lightning fast. These states have flown off the board. Let's see what these final returns are on this final ballot between Riley and Steven. In Alaska, Bernie's going to hold that. Take it, actually, out of that last turn, 298, 240. He's going to defend Idaho properly. Meanwhile, DeSantis, 4-3, going to take Kentucky, and it's 8 electoral votes. Bernie going to hold on to Montana. Meanwhile, Nevada, DeSantis is going to come up one short there. He's going to come up one short in New Jersey. That could close his window, as Bernie's going to hold on to Oklahoma as well. And Bernie's going to hold on to West Virginia. So, that's going to mean Bernie is going to win this match. Riley is going to take victory 290 to DeSantis and Stevens 248. Ryan, what a match.
It really was. I mean, I think Steven played a good game for the first 9 or 10 turns, but Riley has done it yet again. He's not touched on it once or twice. This might be the 3rd time that this guy has taken both California and Texas, or at least blocked the Republican from getting a foothold in Texas. He's done it now throughout the tournament, and it works to perfection again as Steven's early start is dashed.
It was competitive all throughout, like you said. Got a little bit away from Steven at the end, but still, what an incredible game here in Las Vegas. I do want to send it down to our sideline reporter, Brayrand, who's with our winner, Riley.
Yeah, first of all, congratulations, Riley. And, we've been spending, I've been over here on the sidelines and in the stands on your side of the game this whole game. And, we heard huge roars in the crowds when you went into Texas. And then we saw some frustration on the assistant coaches' faces when, maybe we had like a big buyout in like Arizona and Virginia, Michigan. But, you immediately pivoted and you were able to swing that like momentum into taking Illinois. Just what was your thought process through all of that? How were you responding to those changes and what did that look like?
I mean, certainly. I mean, I just want to say, Steven played a fantastic game. That was super entertaining. I think we're both just locked in throughout that entire thing. I got to thank my fans for coming out and supporting me. They're a big part of why I'm here. I think, it is frustrating when you see those buyouts happen, especially, when it's a state like Michigan. It's a state, wasn't a complete buyout, but it's like Pennsylvania, where it's traditionally where, you see a lot of those battles. But, I think with my plan to Texas and to some of those state groups, especially oil and gas, that are a little unorthodox for the Dems, but are really solidified by the Cali-Texas combo. I got a good amount of state groups that allowed me a lot of flexibility into going to states like Illinois. And yeah, I think just gave me a lot of freedom and a lot of money to defend and go into a couple states.
Absolutely. All right. Well, once again, congratulations. Your strategy has proved strong and successful. How are you feeling about, going forward into the tournament? Final question here.
I feel good. I mean, I've had some close games, obviously. But I think I learned something new from each time. I'm really excited to go back to play Ryan, I think, with a new understanding of what works for me. And I think either way how it goes, I'm really proud of how this tournament's gone for me.
Absolutely. Thank you once again. And congratulations. All right, back to you guys in the booth.
Thanks, Brian. I'm going to sit down to Ryan, who's made his way down to the field to interview Steven. Ryan, take it away.
Steven, can you hear me?
I can.
Steven, I mean, what were your emotions like kind of in that turn 8-9 area when you kind of had a hold on the game and he goes into Texas and kind of flips the script? I mean, just what were you thinking at that moment?
You just got to tip your cap. I was planning on going into Texas the next turn, so when that happened and I saw I wasn't going to be able to keep up with them and the money, I was trying to see if there were alternative ways to win without Texas, and ultimately came up short.
Yeah, I mean, it was a remarkable comeback in regards to this tournament. You lost the first match to Brayrand, who everyone thought was a massive surprise. People were questioning, why was Steven the third seed, or why was he...
Myself included.
Yourself included, but some people were saying you're a dark horse to win the whole thing. But then you go on a run. You beat Tyler, you beat Keegan, you beat Jack, all three of which have shown in the past to be very, very dangerous. And, you were leading this for about half the time. So, I mean, what does this say? Does it give you confidence going into the next tournament that maybe you can actually win? Maybe you do deserve to be a top 3 or 4 seed?
Yeah, I feel a lot better coming out of this tournament than I did going in. I think the format was something that was pretty new to me. I had a decent amount of experience in 3 to 5 player games, but 2 was relatively new to me. So I feel a lot better. Hopefully in the future I don't go up against the Cali Texas again, because much like that mid movie that came out last year by A24 Civil War, like when you go against Cali and Texas, you're in for a rough time.
Well, thank you, Steven, for the time. I'm going to send it back up to Keegan here to finish this off, and we might only have one game left, Keegan.
We might. We'll see in the next game if it's going to be 2 or 1. But excellent game from both contestants. Ultimately, though, Steven is going to come up short, though I'm sure we'll see him do exceptionally well in future tournaments. Like you said, a great run from him. Nothing to be ashamed of. We will see Riley next in Dallas at AT&T Stadium, facing off against Ryan. It's going to be a rematch of their showdown in New York City, and it is going to be if Ryan wins there, he will take the title. If Riley can pick him off in that game, they will go to a second match, which will determine the winner. But that is sure to be just an electric environment, an electric game. So make sure you tune in to that exciting matchup coming soon. I have been Keegan, as always, in the booth, and good night, Omaha.